faithfully convey value and interpret great books worldwide. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today we're exploring No More Yelling, how to calmly foster cooperation between children and parents. The author, Laura Rana, is a renowned American parenting educator and founder of numerous family education radio hotline programs. Drawing from years of parenting wisdom and her experience raising four children, she presents case studies to help parents stop yelling and restore family harmony. The book addresses four key questions. First, why do we instinctively yell at our children? Second, what impacts does yelling have on children and family dynamics? Third, how can we break the yelling cycle? Fourth, how should we handle exceptional situations? First question, why do we instinctively yell at our children? There are roughly four reasons. First, intergenerational patterns. Since parenting comes without experience, people unconsciously replicate how their own parents raised them. Let's call this inherited parenting style. Parents from yelling households often inevitably repeat the pattern with their own kids. Even when recognizing this, deeply ingrained childhood experiences may perpetuate yelling despite conscious efforts. Parent-child relationship patterns form the foundation for all future relationships. Children raised with yelling often carry this behavior into their own families. Second, temperament factors contribute. Modern life bombards us with stressors like poor housing, relationship conflicts, job insecurity, or children's academic struggles. Sandwich generation adults supporting both aging parents and young children often feel suffocated. Thus, daily frustrations easily trigger outbursts. Third, unrealistic expectations of children. We drag ourselves home, muster our last reserves of patience for our children, hoping they'll surpass our own achievements someday. And when you devote yourself wholeheartedly to someone or something, yet they don't meet your expectations, it inevitably makes you feel annoyed, sad, self-blame, and so on. That's why when exhausted parents come home after a day's work and the unruly child isn't quietly studying at the desk, but is instead running around disobediently, jumping all over the place, it instantly becomes the last straw that triggers their yelling. The fourth reason is temperament factors. Here, I'll first introduce a new concept. Temperament refers to a person's relatively stable personality traits and demeanor. Psychologists believe that temperament primarily stems from genetics, and the differences shown from birth are often temperamental variations. Some children are prone to crying and being active, while others are calm and quiet. Over time, due to differences in environment and nutrition, a child's temperament can change, which is not negligible in family education and even impacts their growth. Temperament is also a unique lens for observing children's behavior, explaining many actions in their development. Therefore, friction between your temperament and your child's can influence yelling. For example, if you're inactive and sensitive while your child is lively, active, and thick-skinned, if you happen to need quiet at some point, this can easily spark your anger. Thus, the main factors triggering yelling are four. First, inherited family education styles. Second, the buildup of daily trivialities. Third, having overly high expectations of children. Fourth, friction between your and your child's temperaments. Actually, sometimes the child isn't the main culprit, but the anger ends up being taken out on them. So, is yelling really effective? Perhaps many parents think yelling works well. Indeed, it's deeply ingrained in many parents' mindsets. They believe that after being scolded, children develop fear, making them afraid to repeat the behavior. But do children genuinely change for the better because of it? Have you ever carefully observed children's reactions afterward? This leads us to the second question. What impacts does yelling have on children and families? First, from the parent-child relationship perspective, children with different personalities react differently after being yelled at. So, Impulsive, extroverted children might directly shout back at their parents. Thus, one sided yelling from parents evolves into a heated argument, and a sensitive, introverted child usually lowers their head, silently cries, and stays quiet for a long time. No matter what personality your child has, if they're constantly yelled at, they might develop extreme traits. Impulsive children might ignore your anger, become fearless, and even more rebellious. Introverted children become more withdrawn, and their fear of parents escalates. Even a slightly raised voice from parents can make them tremble all over. However, in either case, it severely damages the parent child relationship. So, yelling only works short term. It temporarily controls behavior, but isn't lasting and doesn't fundamentally change it. Moreover, repairing a parent child relationship hurt by angry yelling requires more time and effort. Yelling not only affects parent child relationships, but can even endanger the whole family, as seen in many households. When you criticize your child, the entire family is shrouded in negativity. Conflicts often arise between spouses or in laws due to differing parenting beliefs. Additionally, those who yell frequently don't just do it to their children, their partners and other family members often suffer too. So, yelling also affects the harmony of the entire family. Therefore, yelling doesn't just harm parent child relationships, it negatively impacts the whole family. When parents realize the harmful effects of yelling and want to change, what should they do? This is the third question we'll address today. To reduce yelling, parents must first learn to confront their own issues, which seems simple but isn't easy. Most parents care deeply about saving face, which is why many won't apologize to their children, fearing it undermines their authority. Traditional Chinese culture, spanning millennia, believes parents must establish authority in front of their children. Additionally, many parents, when facing stress and setbacks, internally resist admitting and accepting their weaknesses and failures. Actually, only by confronting one's shortcomings and accepting imperfection can one change and stop making excuses for yelling. Once you understand and confront yourself, you can relax, forgive yourself, and then try to forgive your child's mistakes. After learning to confront ourselves, we still need practical methods to address the yelling habit. The author presents many concrete, down to earth methods in the book. First, let's introduce the yelling tracker method. Step 1. Briefly record what triggered your anger, the situation, process, and your reactions, including physical and emotional responses. Step 2. Record your response and your child's response. Step 3. Document what happened after yelling, how you felt, how your child felt, etc. You can also note down both your and your child's personality traits. Step 4. If you think of better approaches than yelling, record those too. Let's look at an example. After dinner, Xiaoming's dad checked his homework and couldn't help yelling at him. Though Dad knew losing his temper was wrong, he still struggled to control his emotions. So Dad filled out a yelling log to track his behavior. For the first event, Dad wrote, Monday, 7:30 p.m., checked son's homework, found many uncorrected mistakes. When I asked him to correct them and focus, he just smiled like it didn't matter. Dad recorded his reaction. I crossed my arms, feeling furious and impatient. I thought, if Xiaoming keeps this up, his grades will never improve. For step 2, Dad documented both responses. I threw his workbook down and yelled, just quit studying. How will you improve? Why so unmotivated? Xiaoming burst into tears after being scolded. For step 3, Dad noted the aftermath. Afterward, I felt ashamed of losing control. I hugged the sobbing Xiaoming until he calmed down. Xiaoming's sensitive and slow to warm up. He gets distracted easily and lacks study discipline. But he genuinely wants to improve. I'm impatient, though, always pushing for quick results. So, whenever he falls short of expectations, I get furious. Mainly Dad also recorded other problem-solving methods to help himself control his temper. For example, I can leave my son's room first, take deep breaths to calm myself down, then return and patiently ask Shalom if he encountered any difficulties in learning, and so on. Anger often strikes suddenly. Before you realize it, you might be controlled by anger. Through the yelling tracker method, you can identify where your emotions get out of control, notice your reactions and inner thoughts, making it possible to control your emotions. When you can detect the reason for yelling and try to control it, you've already made significant progress. The next step is to find other ways to solve problems. The ABCDE method mentioned in the book is an effective rule. A. Ask yourself, this helps clarify your own thoughts and feelings. Breathe. Taking deep breaths helps calm your mood. C. Calm. Get yourself to calm down quickly. D. Decide. Resolve to find the solution to the problem. Empathize. Put yourself in their shoes. Clarify the child's needs and understand the real purpose behind their behavior. Let's use the story of Xiaoming and Dad as an example. Dad realized that whenever he tutors Xiaoming on homework, he gets angry because Xiaoming doesn't understand, responds slowly, or occasionally loses focus. And after losing his temper, seeing his sad son, he feels very remorseful. Once Xiaoming didn't understand the math problem Dad explained, and when Dad was about to lose his temper again, he decided to try using the ABCDE method from the book to control his emotions. But his initial feeling was, Xiaoming always can't learn this problem, and he's not very serious. When I explain, I'm anxious, worried about his future, so I want to get angry. Next, Dad took several deep breaths and tried to suppress the anger rising to his head. After calming down, Dad decided to put himself in Xiaoming's shoes and think, did I speak too fast? Is my explanation method too hard for an elementary student to understand quickly? When Xiaoming zones out while I'm explaining the problem, is it because he doesn't understand, so he gets distracted? After clarifying the child's thoughts, Dad reorganized his explanation approach and found a way to make it easier for the child to understand. This time, Xiaoming easily understood his dad's explanation, and their father-son relationship became more harmonious. To truly solve children's issues, the method that addresses both symptoms and root causes is education. Non-punitive education is at the core of discipline. The ABCDE method allows you to step back temporarily, stay clear-headed, and approach misbehavior or problems with a positive mindset. Then it's your turn to take proactive steps. The 4Cs method is an excellent way for you to seize the initiative. The 4Cs stand for communication, choice, consequences, and connection. When you want your child to stop inappropriate behavior or start desired actions, clear and concise communication is key. For example, Xiaoming's dad could communicate to understand his views on studying, actual needs, and challenges with homework. After understanding your child's true thoughts, offer solutions and let them choose their approach. Let them decide how they want to solve the problem. If the child's choice is unreasonable, respectfully let them face appropriate consequences for their actions. However, parents must set boundaries, don't always give in, establish family rules at appropriate times to clarify acceptable behaviors. Make consequences clear for rule breaking, and give warnings when they're about to cross boundaries. If children gradually learn rules, they'll become more reasonable and make fewer mistakes. Then what reason is there for yelling? For instance, when Xiaoming's dad noticed homework procrastination, he required completion by 7:30 p.m. or no TV or playtime. This rule reinforces homework responsibility, eliminating the need for yelling over delays. Of course, Xiaoming sometimes begs to go play. Then parents must uphold rules, remind him today's tasks today, and apply the 4Cs method. The core of disciplining children is building genuine connection with them. Connection means bonding heart to heart with your child, letting them feel your ever present love and care. No matter how busy, always make time. When children feel valued and cherished, they understand you better, leading to more harmonious parent child relationships. The book also offers concrete yelling reduction strategies like customizing education plans based on temperament and holding regular family meetings. Family meetings create space for sharing perspectives, planning schedules, and solving problems together. So, after learning these calm down techniques, have they helped you? But life throws curveballs. What if the yeller is your partner or relative, or if your child has special needs? Or if you're a single parent, how do you handle that? That's our final topic today. What to do in special situations. If your partner often yells, start by repairing the marital dynamic to heal the home atmosphere. Marriage is the family's foundation, but many Chinese households prioritize parent child bonds over spousal ones. This reversal fuels yelling cycles. Rebuild by first increasing quality time with your partner. It's the best way to rebuild Murray Che. Second, assess each family member's stress levels to prioritize support without neglecting others. I Third, co-create a parenting plan both partners agree on to avoid conflict over approaches. Lastly, consider marriage counseling for tension relief. It really helps. Second special case, when relatives yell at your child, what then? You'll need direct conversations, not just with the child, but with the relative too. So, like in modern Chinese families where grandparents provide childcare, generational differences in parenting often cause clashes, making communication vital. Be upfront about your stance, even if it annoys elders, and strive to get them on board with your parenting approach. Of course, family members might disagree with your views, but solving problems takes guts and smarts. Beyond partner and family issues, single parents often deal with trickier problems. Like when kids come back from the other parent's home and challenge your rules or have meltdowns, this is totally normal. Kids need time to adjust to their parents' divorce. Single parents must give kids plenty of time and space without grilling them about the other parent. Or, key point, never badmouth the other parent in front of the kid or make them feel loyal to one side. In single parent homes, giving space and setting rules works wonders. Another special case, when your child has disabilities, shame and hopelessness can easily spark yelling. In this situation, first have faith in your child, then use that confidence to seek professional help. Your positive attitude will rub off on your kid, helping them face life bravely and optimistically. All right, let's wrap up what to do in special situations. First, if yelling's hurting your marriage, try to fix the relationship and get professional help when needed. Second, work with caregivers and family to find common ground, getting them to understand and stick to your parenting style. Third, in single parent families, give kids room to breathe, not pressure them with questions. Lastly, have full confidence in kids with special needs. Here we see the author always takes a humane approach, helping parents troubled by anger understand yelling comes from hereditary factors, piled up daily stresses. High expectations and temperament play roles. Though yelling harms relationships, he doesn't point fingers. Instead, he shows deep sympathy for parents' slip ups. The author's yelling reduction strategies are down to earth, practical, and even spark ideas for creating more custom approaches. World peace begins at home. This is the author's recurring message, reminding us that for parents prone to yelling, family harmony comes from continually resolving conflicts successfully. Harmony born of conflict resolution is harmony on equal footing, harmony in relational dynamics. If you confront problems, accept yourself, and embrace change, you'll witness your children thriving happily at home while the whole family grows closer. Your family is an ongoing venture needing constant nurturing. This book, No More Yelling, is the perfect starting point. How to calmly foster cooperation between children and parents. That concludes our book interpretation. Find reading notes below the audio. See you tomorrow.